It's the sixth stop on the BMW IBSF Women's Skeleton World Cup Tour. We're in the 2010 Winter Games venue, the Whistler Sliding Centre in the village of Whistler, a couple of hours drive out from Vancouver in British Columbia in Canada. Hello, welcome everybody. Martin Haven and John Morgan trackside as ever at what is, without question, the fastest sheet of ice on the planet. John Morgan, one heck of a challenge for our athletes.
Yeah, haven't been here in a couple of years, but a lot of these athletes have been on the North America Cup or the ICC Cup here, but the conditions here have been suspect all week long. You can see the track record hit by a Canadian athlete just a month ago. And, you know, up here, curve one, it's so fast. It drops off a 7-story building right off the top of the track. And you go into the next challenge, this little wedge up here, you overlook it, you don't think much, then all of a sudden, here comes wedge, and then exit 4 here. A lot of problems for the bobsled athletes, I'm sure for the skeleton athletes too. Now we go down to this curve called Luter's Loop, named after the Canadian gold medalist Pierre Luters. He had some problems in that curve when the track first opened. Speeds up to 70+ miles an hour here in the links. And now we go down, they're still accelerating away in shiver. And now the pivotal part of the track. They call it the Gold Rush, but we know it as a nickname of 50-50 curve down here, and there's a reason for that. Now you're still going almost 80+ miles an hour. Thunderbird. Some of these athletes today will attain their personal best speeds down the track. It's not even about a finish time, Martin. It's also about speed.
Absolutely. Well, yesterday, the final day of training was all about PW's personal worsts because we had a foot of snow during the morning. That turned to rain in the afternoon for bobsleigh training. So it rained all night long. Conditions, though, are clearish and dry. Tina Herman is our World Cup points leader, 3 wins this season. Jacqueline Learning, her teammate, and Jane Channel, who's having such a standout season, are her closest rivals. From the field here in December 2012, the last World Cup race, only 6 women of the 22 that started that race are in today's event, including Joska LeConte, Marina Giardoni, and Janine Flock from the field 4 years ago now. Didn't even make the cut then. They were 21st and 22nd after a pair of disasters. Janine Flock goes off first on the ice. She'll be hoping to avoid that. Air temperature +2 or so, ice -1, but most importantly after yesterday, no precipitation. There's the start area, the little sprint up area just above the changing rooms. On the left is the control box for the old men's luge start here.
Fantastic facility that they've built here. Great to be back. It's, you know, and the track is a challenge. It's the athletes against the track first, and they get to the bottom, and oh, by the way, what was my time?
Yeah. Well, Janine Flock heads them off from our World Cup points leader. Elizabeth Vacher goes third for Canada. 14 starter Kashi Haresh makes a return to the World Cup. She's been on the Intercontinental Cup trail this season, and she returns for Canada. Last time here, she was in 4th spot, just out of the medals. She could be a real medal prospect here. 20 sliders in the 6th race of the Women's World Cup. First off to set the pace for the field, 26-year-old Austrian Janine Flock, our World Cup points champion last year, the winner of the Crystal Globe.
Been a little inconsistent. Last year was a breakout year for her, and you know, she's the first person down. We have no idea what the track times are going to be, but we know it's going to be fast. I think it's probably ideal conditions.
Yeah, it's covered from turn 1 all the way down to almost the finish eye, and so the track, apart from the start area, was just as quick yesterday, and despite very slow starts, they were actually still getting 138, 139 kilometers an hour at the bottom.
10th in the first race, 7th in the second race, 11th in Koenigsee, 5th in Lake Placid, and her first bronze medal of the year of last season, or last weekend in Park City. So maybe she's coming on at the right time, Martin. 5th and 3rd, the last 2 races.
The whole focus of her season will be trying to get everything perfect for Eagles, her home track at Innsbruck, the World Championships. This is a nice looking slide, no major impacts with the wall. Huge.
That's normal.
Thunderbird.
That's normal in Thunderbird, and it's an uphill section of the finish line.
Couple of taps on the wall.
55.49, and if we compare that to the track record, that's almost 2 seconds off the pace that was set here in February of 2010.
Top speed at the bottom, 135.9 kilometers an hour, 84.5 miles an hour. Head first, sheet ice. And that track record set by Amy Williams in the third heat of the Winter Games here.
The grooves, look at the grooves, and they exit the grooves there. That's going to be an important thing, because that part of the track not covered, very weather-induced up there. So we'll keep our eyes on the start grooves.
Funnels very aggressively into the first corner as well.
Thunderbird, this is normal. But how much does, if they disappear, I say that's not a good line. She disappeared. So anybody who doesn't disappear there, I think it's the fast line. But who are we to know, Martin?
Well, I guess we'll find out in another half dozen athletes. Tina Herman, our World Cup leader, last time when we were in Park City, she claimed her third win of the season. A snow race didn't put her off. She is really having an outstanding season.
Last year, through 6 races, she had not won a World Cup medal, and she was in first place. She narrowly lost the World Cup title to Janine Flock in the last 2 weeks, but she was very consistent last year, and she's just dominating this year.
2 fifth-place finishes in the Intercontinental Cup. That's the second tier of sliding. That was 2 seasons ago, her only appearance here.
And she does everything right. She's got a good start. She's got great equipment, and she's starting to learn how to slide.
And she's got a great attitude, so relaxed about being here. She's had about 4 days on the track in her life.
And you know, there's another asset that she's got, Martin. Look at it, she's already plus in the green. It's another asset she's got. She's young.
Yeah.
We could be seeing her for a couple Olympics.
Little toe drag into 4. Another one there as she comes through Luda's Loop.
That's a little rough exit, but she's got 4/10 lead.
Well, this is phenomenal.
Wow. That's a lot.
This is what Tina Herman has been doing to the field. Again, you can see her right foot working hard to keep the line.
74 hundredths. This is a sport of hundreds of seconds that separate the top athletes, and she's coming down here. Look at, she does not disappear like Janine Flock, does not skid into the finish. That's why she's the World Cup leader. Jens Mueller, he knows a little bit about these Canadian tracks. He won the Olympic gold medal in Calgary in men's luge in 1988. So obviously he's taken some of that and put it into this athlete.
Well, she's had 1 hit on the wall. That might have been on the finish straight. But a blinding run from Tina Herman.
Wow.
Yeah. I think we might be getting the fist pump at the end of heat 2 again from her.
Little rough here on the exit of Luda's Loop, I think it was.
Yeah.
But, a little rough exit, but she did not waver much.
This is a track of 2 halves. It's the first bit to 11 and the bottom bit where it's really quick. And you can have a sled set for one or the other, but not both. All the coaches are saying, well, you have to sort of go with your athlete's judgment of whether they want control at high speed or they want lack of friction at the lower speed corners. 21-year-old Canadian Elizabeth Vache, 16th here on her last appearance in the Intercontinental Cup. That's her only time on this track. And for a Canadian athlete, that shows how quick her development was straight up into World Cup. Bronze medalist in last year's World Championships in Winterberg in Germany.
She's had a little bit of an off year to date. 13th, 9th, 9th, 12th, and 6th last week. So she had her best finish of the season last week. Good start, but boy, she's gonna have to stay within Tina Herman here, 10 hundredths at the top, because Tina Herman blew Janine Flock away in the first 200 meters. She was 4/10 ahead, so Vachi's only 5 behind. She keeps that within single digits. She'll have a chance here.
Marcus Duclos told me yesterday he figures this is the hardest track to beat local knowledge because there's so little pressure pushing you down into the corners. He said it's really hard to know where the steers are coming in.
She's lost it all too. She's 4/10 back, so Tina Herman's got some magical line up top that's even better than the Canadian line.
She's on par with Janine Flock. And at the moment, Tina Herman has put down a run that I think some of the men will be third here. 1:32.8 is not great speed at the bottom.
Wow, 1 second behind. Tina Herman, what did she have? This is a sport where they're all grouped together by 20 or 30 hundredths. Here in the first heat, one of the favorites of the competition, Vachi's over a second behind. This could be all about for the silver and the bronze.
Well, she was not overjoyed with her training runs yesterday. Not a bad exit, but
a little skidding there.
Yeah.
Toe came out, rudder came out, and the crossover here, she hits going into the 50 section, I think.
That's a big old hit, isn't it? They're going to come off. They're going to come off this track black and blue, every single man, woman of them.
There's our spikes they use to grip, run across the ice.
And all the goo on the toe of the shoes to give it a little bit of grip when you use it, just to correct the yaw in the sled. This is Annie O'Shea from the USA, 28-year-old. She's had 4 races in her career here. 9th in the World Cup here in December 2012. She's one of just half a dozen athletes that were in that race that are still here.
Well, she's had a breakout year. Gold medal in Lake Placid a couple weeks ago. Only her 2nd podium ever. Great starting athlete. She's always had that. Now let's see if she can stay within 4/10 of our leader, Tina Herman, here by the time she gets through Luder's Loop.
Well, she's avoided skids, and in fact, she's opened up a 1200s advantage. Little toe steer there.
Well, this is where Tina Herman had some kind of afterburn.
Annie O'Shea, good run here as she gets to Luder's Loop. Just a little hard on
Well, the other athletes were 4/10 down, so she's at least holding her own.
Tied for the lead through Shiver, corner 11.
8 back, so at least if she keeps it together, she'll be the #2 athlete. It seems like everybody else is going to be just running for the silver and the bronze from what we saw in Tina Herman.
Well, what she got in the Gold Rush Trail and through Thunderbird, a hit, and she is in the lead by 200ths of a second.
Well, so much for my evaluation of silver and bronze. What did she do in the bottom?
Well,
wow, she was red numbers up there, her 50-50 curve. So she must have found some perfect speed line here in the bottom, because she was 800ths behind,
yeah,
200ths ahead at the bottom.
She had good speed at the top, which means she was not set up for the bottom of the track, and then you've just got to hold on to it and hang on to it and try not to have the big skids, and that's what she was doing here, out of 50-50 and down into Thunderbird.
This is above. Look, this is the Gold Rush section where she started the perfect. This is 50-50. Oh, she tapped too before she got in. That's the big problem the bobsledders get. They tap that left wall. Same thing for the skeleton athletes.
Exit 4, exit 7, exit 11,
She's
exit
the leader.
14. She's the leader. We have a race on our hands.
Well, so much for predicting times here.
Next up is 25-year-old German Sophia Griebel. Our leader is Annie O'Shea. 2nd is Tina Herman. 3rd, Janine Flock. So where will Griebel come? She's had 4 Intercontinental Cup races here. 2012-13, she was 2nd and 3rd. The previous time, 2010-11, she took 2 silver medals. So she has never been off the podium racing on this track. That sounds very much like the curse of the commentator, doesn't it?
Well, I don't want to bring that up. I've done a few curses myself. 4th in the first event, and then 5th, 15th, and 8th. So she has not had a very good North American tour. And as you mentioned, she's got a lot of experience. More experience than her teammates, and she's ranked top 10 in the World Cup, which is good.
Let's see how she fares. 900s behind at the start. In fact, she was 1400s behind Annie O'Shea. The gap out now to 3/10. So she's not going to challenge Tina Herman either.
There's that
Janine Flock in 3rd is going to be perhaps under threat.
This is what we saw in the other sleds being 5, 6, 7/10 down. But then Annie O'Shea, she kept the pace all the way down the track and took the red numbers to the green on the bottom part of the track. So let's see what Griebel can do in the uphill section. Boy, that's a lot of places to lose time. That's pretty good.
85.5 miles an hour, 137.6 kilometers an hour in new money. That's a heck of a speed down the bottom. She closed that gap.
She
right
was
back.
4,400ths behind up there in the exit of Luder's Loop and only 4,300ths behind at the bottom. So she had good lines on the bottom where the speed was.
So she set herself up to gain speed back at the bottom, but she sacrificed too much at the top. This is the balance they have to try and make in their heads.
Well, her start time, 5th best start of the 5 sleds and of the 5 sleds, and you know, impressive on the bottom. She was losing time all the way. Look at 50-50. Ooh, nobody's got through there clean. That little tap forces in the middle of the curve. Middle of the curve, more steering.
In the blue jacket behind, Leanne Parsley, former Canadian Olympian.
American Olympian, silver medal,
yeah.
2002 in Park City.
There you go.
Correct you on that one.
Next up for Canada, Jane Channel. Now Jane having a standout season. Podiums the last 2 races for her. No, beg your pardon, in Winterberg, bronze, and Park City, she took silver last week. And her online account name, C Jane Run, very apt. She is very quick at the start. 4:87, 200ths of a second off the track record set by Mimi Reneva back in November.
Well, you know, she's been so consistent. Didn't do well on up to 7th in the first race, then a bronze medal in Winterberg, up 6th in Kodigsee, 6th in Lake Placid, but a breakout season, 2nd, her best finish ever last week in Park City.
Comes from North Vancouver, so this is really home ice for her, but such is the way of sliding. She's only raced here a couple of times in international races. She was 6th in her last outing here, 2014. 3,200s
back, now 4,600s back, but we've seen a couple of sleds find time with the bottom. She gets a good 50-50 curve in here. She could do it. Oh, she's 5. It's probably going to be 4th here.
136.8 at the bottom of the track, which is 85 miles an hour flat. She's in 4th place, 6/10 off the lead. In 3rd, Sophia Griebel, 4,300ths off the lead, so she's 1,700ths away from a medal at the moment.
On this track, she's still within reach of a bronze. 1,700ths is nothing on this track.
Well, so hard to be perfect on this track of all tracks.
Well, the start, she's the best starter in the field. Dark shield, little toe touch there. Look at that, come up. Look at a lot of toe touch there. I'm surprised. She tried to fight to get into the curve, and here in the Thunderbird, does she disappear? Yes. I don't think the disappearing act is the perfect line.
So, Vancouver girl currently lying in 4th place in this first of 2 heats here at trackside. Martin Haven, John Morgan watching the action with you. Annie O'Shea is our race leader. First of 2 heats, round 6 of the BMW IBSF Skeleton World Cup. Jacqueline Lerling of Germany, one of the youngest in the field, 20 years old, this girl from Winterberg. Last time out here, she was 3rd bronze medalist in the Intercontinental Cup. Those 2 races that weekend were her only appearances here, though.
This will be the worst start of the first 6 sleds, but this is also the tallest athlete in the competition, besides being the youngest, and she's a glider. She knows how to really find high speed, but she's going to have to get within 50/100ths here. If she keeps bleeding time, maybe 50/100, she could bring it back into a top 3.
Well, she was 1,700ths behind Annie O'Shea just from lack of speed at the start when she lay down. So if she negates that now, if she's no worse than 3/10 away,
here she comes.
She could be coming.
She's only 3,100ths back, and with that bad start time, she is flying. The speed on the bottom, this is what she does. She's a glider, but that's rough.
That was very rough, but she's going for speed. She's going to try and ride this bucking Bronco all the way into the green. Still 3/10 behind. Still 3/10 behind. 138.4.
Big speed.
6 miles an hour at the bottom.
With the deficient start time, 1,700ths at the start, and she only finishes 2,200ths behind at the bottom. Wow, Germans are now in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Wow. If she ever had a start time, I don't know if anybody touched her. She's a lot like...
She's so young, she will get quicker. She may never set the world on fire at the start, but her coaches say she learns so fast.
She's going for it here. Watch her, she comes off. She's the tallest athlete in the competition, and that tall frame almost comes off the sled there in a skid. Now, the crossover section here, look at this. This is where she had the speed, Martin. That's good lines there.
She went for control at high speed down at the bottom, and that was a well-judged balance. It really reminds me a lot of young Noelle Piker's pace. Well, here is the youngest athlete in the field from Belgium, still just 19, Kim Meilmans.
So I thought Jacqueline was the youngest, but Kim is.
She's even younger. Started at the age of 13, went to high school in Germany, and then sliding for Belgium. Silver medalist in the Youth Olympic Games 4 years ago. Youth Olympics happening this month again.
Top 10 every race this season, including 8th last week in Park City. She's been very consistent, considering this is her first full season on the World Cup Tour.
And she's never raced at any level in North America either. She's never seen Vancouver or Whistler before this week.
has a little bit of Katie Eulander style, where her legs will come apart, come off a little bit. And she's fast. We'll see if she can take advantage of the fast track that Whistler provides. 6/10 is, she's going to have to find a fast line, or she's not going to get into the top 5. And right now she's ranked about 8th.
Well, worth underlining, in training they had 6 runs down the ice, and then there are 2 more in the race. So in any given race weekend you only have 8 trips. This is the 7th of her life here, and you can hear a lot of noise as the sled comes by. And that's the chin on the ice, but especially the toes acting as the steers. There's Martin Rettel, her coach.
Well, that shows a little inexperience on this track, because there's not a heat she's had this season where she's been at 1.6 seconds out of the lead.
No, and it's ironic that even the Canadian athletes know European tracks much better than they know Whistler. Canadians know the German tracks better than they know their own.
Look at the up top
track.
here. I think that's up top where the speeds, she's trying to pick them up, and she had a toe touch there. And there's 50-50, and she came out. She probably get the earliest part of the take-on that anybody has, and put her into the middle. No speed in the bottom part of the track, and no speed all the way down the track.
Miles Marmons might finish outside the top 10, who knows. Next up, 27-year-old Laura Dees from Great Britain. Raced here in 2012 and 2014 in the Intercontinental Cup. Didn't make a top 10 finish in either race weekend. So this is a track that she's got experience of, but not perhaps an awful lot.
Could be a 4
of love between them.
Could be a 490 or better start too. This is a good athlete here in the first 50 meters.
4:85, the start record set in November last year by Mimi Reniver of Canada.
4:85, she ties the record. You know, you say, what athletic background does she come from? You know, track and field, what? No, equestrian. She never was in a gym in her life until she came into the sport of skeleton, and she's one of the best athletes in the field in the first 50 meters, and she's won earlier this year. Her first gold medal of the season was in Altenburg.
Yeah, first of her life in Altenburg. She was one of 3 first-time winners this season. Annie O'Shea, the most recent in Park City. Tina Herman, who's our points leader, claimed her first career win with the first of her 3 victories this year.
She's hanging in there. Good here on the bottom. Give her a chance. 4,200 back, so she's riding about 5th. Now, boy, there's a lot of noise, a lot of scratching. And this looks slow across the finish line. She lost time on the bottom. But she tied the start record. And
the problem is when you hear all that noise, that is the toes working hard to steer, and if you drag your toe on the ice, you know when you're sledding yourself, if you drag your feet in the snow, it slows you down. Well, exactly the same happens here.
She's 2,400ths out of 4th, 700ths out of 5th. Well, this is how you do it at the start. This is the best athlete in the field so far. Little toe touch there. You can see the
tiny amount of spray coming off the ice still from the water earlier. And a late
look at the head down there. Yeah, look at her. She had her head down coming off that curve. I don't know if that was the G-force or the way she wanted to get off the exit.
Well, our fastest 2 starters, Laura Dees and Jane Channel, currently lying 6th and 5th. But here is another girl who's going to put the start record under really heavy pressure. Marina Giardoni. She was 21st, missed the cut in her only World Cup race here. That was in December 2012. But she came here and raced in bobsled as well as a brakewoman. She was 14th with Fabienne Meyer, 2 times a junior bobsled brakewoman world champion. 4:85, the start record right now. At 4:89, I'm slightly surprised that she didn't get a little more pace.
Now, I think she's going to really be challenged here. This track, she's lost that advantage back.
Wow, but only 300ths of a second behind. We've seen athletes who are 2/10ths behind by the second clock. This could be a big run for Marina Giardoni.
The 10 back. That's good. We've seen most 3 or 4 of the athletes be 50, 60 hundredths back at that point, so only 10 back. She's hanging in there.
So she's gone for control at the top of the track. Now you hear the scratching coming in. Will the gaps get larger? Yes, she's getting wild and more out of control. 131 is very low speed, relatively, only 81.5 miles an hour.
She lost a lot on the bow.
Yeah, she went for control at the top and she couldn't quite hang on at the bottom. I'm sure track conditions are even more skiddy down at the bottom than they have been in training.
Well, this is shaping up to quite a race. I mean,
Well, she's only 300 slower than the girl who came down just in front of her, Laura Dees.
So it's not about a start track, that's for sure. And here on the exit of this curve, watch her come down and feet come up in the air. And there's been a lot of problems with the exit of that. Here's 50-50, and she's going to tap going in. Yeah, there's a big hit. That cost a lot of speed there, Martin. Bottom part. No one's got over here in that crossover, that 50-50 curve yet.
Just think you can't at that speed on a skeleton sled. Annie O'Shea leads by 200s, 2200s back Jacqueline Lurling, another 2100s back Sophia Griebel. The gaps are open. Well, now Kendall Wessenberg of the USA, first time here ever in her life, despite coming from the USA. So, like a lot of these athletes, this is a real baptism of fire. There's a big aura about this track and its speed. She rocked off from the top full tilt in her first run.
Doesn't get great starts, but she had a personal best ever, 5th in the World Cup in Park City last week on a short track. She really was fast on the bow.
First year in the World Cup, John, she's new to us, but before she started the season, she had competed in only 8 international skeleton races of any kind, and she actually won on her very first ever race. She won a Europa Cup race in Lillehammer, beating Kim Marmons, who's also in the field.
Well, she's got a lot of challenges up here up top, and she's in a 10th place position now. And you know, the coaches really like her because they say she is fast on every track she's on. Her only deficiency is her start time, and here she's well off the pace.
10th place again ahead of Kim Marmons, and at the line she takes it with a 56.09.
Coach Tuffy Latour looking on. He's the one that is very high in Kendall.
That is now her 7th lifetime trip down this track.
And this ain't no disc golf, this place.
No, that's for sure. You could see her elbows out. She was really working hard to try and control the sled. She doesn't lack ability to learn or chutzpah, this girl.
Going to need to improve her start. Good technique, but she overshot the run there, and feet came out. A little energy going left to right on the sleds. And down here, you know, here when it's 80 miles an hour and your chin's inches off the ice and you're making decisions, and watch the way the curve throws her there. She comes into the wrong side of that take on, and boy, it's a challenge, this track.
It certainly is. Constant corrections from Kendall Wessenberg, and she lies in 10th spot. So next up, Donna Crichton, 30 years old, from Great Britain. 3rd and 4th here in the Intercontinental Cup 2014. She won in January 2015 in the Intercontinental Cup as well. She's had 4 different appearances here because she's done 2 World Cups as well. She was 4th here in 2010, but only 17th 2 years later in the 2012 race, the last one on this track in World Cup action.
Good start, though. Should get in the 90s.
She might even get in the 8s. 4.95 though. Now let's see if she can manage to cling on to the lead group.
She's only got 10th was her best World Cup finish so far this season, and I'm surprised at that, Martin. She's got a lot of experience. She's a good athlete to start. And, you know, the British are pretty good at this women's skeleton.
Won here last year in the Intercontinental Cup, on the way to being the series champion last season. And Katie Eulander, as you said, from the USA, has won it this season. So she's got ability. She knows she can win races. She just needs to have the confidence of 2 really good runs in World Cup.
Got 6. We haven't heard a lot of noise. No, I haven't heard a lot of scratching.
Very quiet so far.
Is she going to go out of sight?
6/10 up. She's in 8th position, 9th at the line. 8th at the line. All right.
She'll take that.
700s behind Marina Giardoni, 1/10 behind teammate Laura Dees.
And she is not finished better than 10th all season. So when you improve your World Cup ranking with an 8th, that might be one of her best heats of the year.
Yep. 134.5 at the bottom. 83.6 miles an hour.
83.6 miles an hour with your chin inches off the ice. Here looks, there, good line. Ooh. And here in the, look at her profile here is great. Feet a little bit apart into the Thunderbird. And middle part of the curve, does she disappear all the way? Yeah, but watch the sled skid here. Look at this. See that little skid right there? That cost her.
That's the speed and the lack of G-force down there at the bottom as well. Most tracks you'd be pulling 4 or 5 G. Here, it's more like 2 or 3. 31-year-old Takako Oguchi from Japan is now the oldest slider in the field. 9th and 6th here in December this year. She's done a lot of races in the Intercontinental Cup here and North America's Cup, because the Japanese habitually start their season here.
She's only had 2 World Cups so far, Park City and Lake Placid, 13th and 17th. Start, the 7th best start.
She should know where she's going on this track, but of course, Intercontinental Cup is a little different level of performance from the rivals to the World Cup here. Half a second back. She's given away much too much time at the top of the track.
That was a rough, and now into the Lotus Loop. That was a rough exit of that curve.
Really hard off 6. And that's the sort of thing where your face hits the helmet as the helmet hits the ice and gives you a bloody nose.
Ooh, this is not good here, but she's letting it go. Or she's well off the pace, though.
Very little extra steering. She's trying to let it fly as much as she can.
Totally disappears. See the straightaway, bang. I think when you disappear like that, you're going to hit the wall on the straightaway. Look at Casimiro Koshi. He doesn't want to watch.
56-55.
That might be a problem for her getting in the top 20. Well, there's 20 sleds.
There's 20 sleds, so she's just made it across the line. She will get a second heat no matter what.
She'll be one of the first sleds we see in the second run. That is for sure.
Yeah. As you say, 13th Lake Placid, 17th Park City.
And this is just where she's up top of the track, 6. She almost comes off the sled late. And then she gets into Luder's Loop and goes down. When you disappear like that, you get centrifugal force brings you back up. And now you're just trying to get to the bottom.
Somebody has their toes on there.
We're talking about the speeds that they're doing, 136 kilometers an hour. Try doing that in your car on a slushy highway on the way home, and the police will rightly have something to say to you, but that's considered normal here. Now, returning to the World Cup for the first time in 3 seasons, Cassie Haresh from Canada. 4th in the last World Cup here in 2012, but she's had 2 silver medals in Intercontinental Cup racing just 2 years ago here.
Nice to see Canadians with 3 athletes in the field.
Another great skeleton helmet color scheme, very reminiscent of Sarah Reed. Sarah took silver behind Marion Thies in the last World Cup race here.
2800's back, and well, you think she knows the track. So if she stops the bleeding, keeps it with a 35 or 40 here. Ooh, that wasn't good there. That curve 6. Luder's Loop.
Racing Intercontinental Cup this year.
She's way off the pace.
Dropping down 9/10 back. 13th place in front of Oguchi.
Like the umbrellas are out. There could be rain coming down the track down long.
Well, the track's covered all the way down to the finish eye. At the start, will just lose perhaps a little bit of pace. 131.8, not great speed at the bottom. It's only 82 miles an hour.
Well, almost 2 seconds off the pace for someone who was 4th in the last World Cup here. That was then, this is now.
Yep. Cassie trying to recapture that form. Sort of the disappointed face of her coach, Ivo Pakans. She heads off to be weighed.
Look at that skid there. But when you skid like that on that curve 6 off the tap, now she's got to go to the Luder's Loop. Here's the 50-50. She does not get through there cleanly, but not too bad. But by then, she had lost most of the time.
Very skiddy at the top of the track, and saw the sled getting very sideways. A little bit of wind picking up at the top. That's the first time we've had this so far this week. It's been very still, whether it's been in the cloud or in the snow. Next up, 28-year-old Michaela Widmer, the Canadian-born athlete, sliding for Switzerland now, 5th and 6th here in the Intercontinental Cup in December 2015. She's had a bronze medal here in 2012 as well, when she was behind Noel Piker's pace and Sophia Griebel. They were the top two. And the year before, she was bronze behind Sarah Reed and Sophia Griebel. Now, if she can tuck herself in behind Sophia Griebel this time, then that'll put her in with a shout at the medals again.
Well, 15th place last week in Park City was her best ever World Cup finish. And, you know, she's got a lot of time on this track.
She perhaps knows this track as much as anybody. Let's see if she can really make that pay for her. Half a second back. She was 23 hundredths off the lead of Annie O'Shea as she lay down. Oh, and the gap has opened up to 0.8 of a second. This is not going well for Michaela.
But if she gets into the top 15, I think that's her goal. Her top 12 or 13 here would be, I think she'd be happy with it.
See if she can find some speed here. Best result of the season came last week.
She's not bad for her. She could be top 11.
And she is 11th.
So she'll take that. That could be her best, personal best ever in a World Cup heat. 11th best. You know, all you want to do is come out here and improve every time out. Last week was her best World Cup finish ever, a 15th in Park City.
See the great lion artwork on her helmet.
Thanks, God.
Well, to be laughing after you just came down the track at 80+ miles an hour. 50-50. Look at the transition here. Now, this might be the first athlete we've seen get through there. Watch the back end here.
That was good. She
That's
was
the
right
best
on the line.
Transition in 50-50. We'll be looking at this for the next couple of days. It'd be very dicey for the bobsled athletes through there. But that's the best line we've seen so far of 15 athletes, and that's why she's in 11th place.
Annie O'Shea still the leader by a whisker from Tina Herman. Few spots of rain, stroke snow, stroke something coming down out of the clouds. Next up, 16th of our starters, Joske Leconte, 28-year-old Dutch woman. 11th here in the last
Look at the rain.
Cup. Yes, it is raining out.
That really affects the start.
Down.
Right there at the start, it's not covered. From this point on, the track's covered.
Now, Joske's done 3 World Cup events here. 16th in 2009, 14th in 2012, 11th here in the previous race.
For 4, a lot of problems. 5, 6 coming up. This has been a challenge for a lot of athletes. She's not that Luder's Loop, but she's tapped on the take-on. So the exit here's a little skiddy.
Ooh, and she's gone from 1900s to 4600s back.
If she can keep it within 60 hundredths here, this could be top 10. Next clock. Oh, she lost a lot. That tap you talked about cost her almost 3/10 mark, 150 meters.
Well, the rain won't be affecting the track surface other than the first run down to turn 1. Shy at the line.
That's pretty good.
In 12.
You'll take that. You know, Martin Reynolds, the coach, looks on. He'll take that. So she continues to improve.
She could be on target to improve on her best World Cup performance here. 11th in December 2012, last year, 3 years ago.
And her best finish of the season was 16th last week in Park City. So she's up there in the 13th position. She'll take it.
Starting to dial in her Bromley sled. Richard Bromley is here. Kristen Bromley is here this weekend as well.
Well, this is a little skidding up top, a rough transition from at the exit of 6 into Luder's Loop, and then this is too high. 50-50. Does she come through here without? Not bad.
Not bad. Little
Not
toe
bad.
steer just to correct the line, but that wasn't a bad transition at all for Joske. 27-year-old Olga Potilitsina. Last time she was at this track, she was on the podium. Last year, she got a 2nd and an 8th. And she raced here in the World Cup in 2010. The post-Olympic race, she was 17th, and in 2012, she was 18th.
I'm hearing a lot of rain in our ears here.
Well, we could see it when we got the head-on shot of how much rain was falling in the start area. Now, to start with, it actually helps lubricate the ice for the runners, so there's less friction, but also it will start to fill up the groove, so there's more friction. And where that tipping point comes, who knows?
Curve 1, and then you drop off like a 7-story building right there. From curve 1 to curve 3 right here. This is where you start to rock it on this track. And then into the section they call the wedge.
By which time you're already doing nearly 60 miles an hour.
It's just unbelievable. And now into the 6, Luner's loop. Does she go up and down? Not too bad. Does she get on the exit here? That's a little rough. Not bad. Only less than 4/10 back.
15th fastest start. She's already driving herself into 8th place on the split times. This is a good run from Olga Potolitsina.
One of the few athletes in the field who's won a gold medal in women's skeleton. She did in Innsbruck in 2013. Ooh, she was delayed.
Scaring the woodwork in Thunderbird, and that might drop her out to the 10. No, 9th place.
So her better finish. I mean, you expect that. You know, this athlete who's got, again, 14th and 13th in Lake Placid and Park City, respectively. And, you know, you expect with her experience, she'd be up in the top 10 consistently.
Well, she hasn't been in the World Cup consistently for 2 or 3 seasons, but I was looking at the standings. Maria Orlova, who was the 3rd Russian athlete in the first part of the season, is only 104 points ahead of her in the overall rankings.
50-50, not hit the take-on, didn't do that well, but she lost a lot here. Watch these lines in the Thunderbird at 80+ miles an hour. She's up near the roof.
Yep.
She'll disappear here. And then she's out of sight. Now with centrifugal force, got to bring her back up. Look at the sled skidding. It's turning.
Well, if she can hold on to a top 10 finish, she will overhaul Maria Orlova in overall standings and may earn herself a World Championship spot. 22-year-old Anastasia Schlapak, her first time in North America, 4th in the Youth Olympics 4 years ago when she was 0.02 of a second out of bronze in only her 2nd year of sliding.
11th place in Park City last week, her best ever.
She's been racing in the European Cup this season, the first part of the year she spent on European tracks. She was 2nd in the standings before she got the World Cup call-up.
Into the curve 1, and now you just fall 7 stories.
5:02, good start from her. 700s behind Annie O'Shea as she lay down, and at the first split, 2200 back, 10th place.
Did pretty good at Park City last week in the 2nd run.
Again, a track she'd never seen before. You have to learn fast when you're a newbie, and she is still in that era.
Some of these athletes have never been to North America until a couple weeks ago. So what, you know, here we are, Lake Placid, 2-time Olympic Village, Park City, Salt Lake City, host the Olympics in 2002, and then we come here to this Olympic track. So we've had a good Olympic theme here in North America.
Yep, and Schlapak, along with Renata Pitsina, her teammate, has never seen any of these tracks.
Bang.
That's not
Bang.
carrying much
13.
pace across the line, 55.74 for her.
Dan, the coach for Russia, I think's happy with that. Look at the rain coming down there, Martin.
Glad to be indoors.
It's been fickle up here, I think you could say.
Well, they telling us yesterday they haven't had rain here in weeks and weeks and weeks. Plenty of snow.
But we had a couple feet of snow in the morning and then rain in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Up top of the track, and look at the transition. Does she gonna hit the wall over here on the right part of our screen? Or her toes out, but she seems to get through there okay.
Gets those knees onto the corners of the sled to get the little grooves in the runners to give her more grip. Changes the balance of the sled and more friction, unfortunately. 30-year-old Katie Tannenbaum from the Virgin Islands. She raced here in December in the Intercontinental Cup and in the North America's Cup. She had 3 11th and 1 10th place finishes. She also raced in the Intercontinental Cup here in January 15 and December 2012. So she's got lots of time on this track as well.
Wow.
Fortunately, she is running into the rainstorm. You can see the bow wave that the runners are creating.
Now they go to curve 1, 2 is a slight change of direction, and then 3. This is where the losers all start right there, and that Used to be the women's league house, now it's the men's.
20th in Park City last week.
And she made the cut. It's the first time she ever made the cut in any of the events. So, you know, it's all about, a lot of these athletes know they can't win a medal, but they're out there with personal bests, their personal best finish. Improve every time you come to the track. And learn.
Yep.
That's so fast.
From the Virgin Islands, clearly not much in the way of winter to train in, so she always has to do a lot of traveling. That's why North America is more home to her than Europe.
Big hit there on the exit of Thunderbird, 19th.
Martin Rettel, the coach.
Out of 19 sleds, but
speed at the bottom, 130.5, 81.2 miles an hour.
I'm not a physicist, and I don't know what the rain does, the moisture does to the track.
Well, whatever it is, I'm not sure it helps your speed. I know it absolutely will be doing something.
Yeah. Slight friction is what, light moisture on the track reduces friction, but this, I don't know.
Well, you can see the track's covered all the way down, so it's not on the running surface apart from the start and the finish. What it does do, though, is it ramps up the humidity in the air, and because it's already positive temperatures, the refrigeration of the track is on quite hard to keep the ice frozen. And of course, when you've got a cold ice and moist air, you get frost. And so that may not be helping either. Final of our 20 sliders, 22-year-old Renata Kutsina, 4th fastest in the field on her last training run. Now, only about half the athletes did go on the final run of training yesterday, but nevertheless, that shows that there is the ability there to find speed. Now, whether she can conjure it up 2 or 3 times in a row on a track she's only had 6 runs down now remains to be seen.
20th in Lake Placid, 18th in Park City. And she'll be no worse than 20th in this run.
5:14, that's not a great getaway, but again, still only 22. So she could find more pace at the start. She's only been sliding since 2013, so we're at the beginning of her, well, middle of her 3rd season.
Big hit there. The speeds were slow.
And again, you can see the feet wide apart. That brings the knees into play. They're steering. She's putting pressure on the rear of the sled at the edges, and that rocks the sled back a little bit because the runners aren't flat, and it gets the knives in the ice, and that gives her more control.
Well, she's got too much control. She was a second down where everybody else is half second down, and she came around curves 4 and 5 nicely, but I think there's too much steering on her.
Not much scraping, which means that she has gone for a fairly conservative setup. The runners aren't flat, they're bowed like a rocking chair. That's that. You see now, control takes away speed in friction, but gives you speed because you're not skidding sideways, and there's definitely a balance there. I think she struck that pretty well. 16th, if she finishes there, that'll be her career high in 3 World Cup races now. That's not a bad run at all from Kutsina. So 20 sleds started, all 20 sleds have completed the run, and Renata Kutsina, 16th position. That was a good controlled slide. She kept enough speed. Where is she? She is, I don't know, 1300s behind 15th Kendall Wessenberg. So that's
personal best.
Yeah,
you know, she's 16th. She was 18th last week. It was their best ever. And like we talked about, we just want to, the athletes want to come out here and improve from week to week.
Annie O'Shea has improved from week to week this season, including her first ever career win in World Cup racing in Lake Placid. She is having an absolutely standout season. She leads here, but the gap is tiny, 200ths of a second. Going into our second and deciding heat, it is wide open. That's as good as being tied with Tina Herman.
Well, she was 800ths in the red, and then found it on the bottom, and there's only 200ths lead in the bottom, so she's fast. She's got a lot of confidence.
Now the athletes have to second guess what the weather will do to the track for the second heat, make adjustments if they feel they're required. maybe go away from where they are or try and bring the sled further towards what they're looking for. That's your first round leader box then. Anya O'Shea, Tina Hammond, 200s apart. Jacqueline Lurling battling with Sophia Griebel, and don't think that Jane Channell and Laura Dees are out of a potential medal either. Maybe even Marina Gialdoni, 7/10 back in 7th. You never know. Somebody lose half a second on this track in the blink of an eye. 20 sleds down, all safely completed the run, and we will go 20 down to 1, last to fast in our second heat. So stay with us live trackside in Whistler for another exciting run in the Women's Skeleton World Cup.